everyone, and welcome to JKL Media, your podcast all about pop culture. I am one of your hosts, Jesse Jackson. Joining me on stage is Karen.
Hello, everyone.
And Lou.
Hello, everyone.
Yes, we are on the wheel talking about Station 11. Gone through the first two episodes. Now, this episode, we will be discussing episode 3 and episode 4 in all spirit of transparency. After watching 3 and 4 and my original, I went, what the hell's going on with this show? And I'm so glad that we're going to be able to talk about Hurricane and Rosencrantz and Guildenstern aren't dead. So let's start with you, Karen. Any quick thoughts about these two episodes?
Both of them or just one of them? Does it matter?
It doesn't matter. You can do either one.
Okay.
Let's do Hurricane both first and then, okay.
I'll do both, but I'll say I had different thoughts about each episode.
Okay.
Hurricane, number one, I keep singing Hurricane from Hamilton in my head every time I see the title. In the eye of a hurricane. But this episode was very odd to me. I understand that Miranda was married to Arthur. I understand that she wrote Station 11. Beyond that, we dedicated an entire hour to her. So I'm hoping this pays off down the line. I'm sure you guys will nod at me and say, yes, it does. Because why else would they give her a whole hour? I did like seeing more about Arthur since he was the impetus that started off the whole thing. I mean, he didn't start the flu, but he started our story. So that was cool. And to see the past, quote unquote, and it's our past as well by 2 years? It's 2020.
Mm-hmm.
It was good to see that. I still don't understand the significance of the book that she wrote. The fact that I guess it's a graphic novel because she's an artist. And there were some really odd parts to this. We did learn that there's more than one copy. So that answers a couple questions for me. How did this other guy know about the book? Well, obviously he got his hands on one of those other copies. So is that a plot point? Who knows? Or at least you guys do. I don't. And to see how the flu came into being, like from another perspective, was good too. You know, we saw Miranda regretting the fact that she didn't stop by and watch the play that was his final performance, that she didn't get that extra time with him. It shows that she loved him even though she couldn't be with him, which again, how does that tie in with the story? I don't know. But yeah, so she stays in Malaysia. She's on a business trip. And could her business partner dude be any more irritating? My answer is no. He's belittling everything. Although, if we compare it to current goings on with COVID and all that, there's very definitely the two schools of thought of it's nothing, we shouldn't worry about being vaccinated, to we really need to worry about this. Although it's more extreme, obviously, in the case that the world is ending. Although that's hyperbolic, the world didn't end, society ended. Mm-hmm. As one of my favorite comedians, George Carlin, says, we're not ending the earth. We're not saving the earth. We're saving ourselves. The earth will still be here and turning no matter what we do.
Yeah.
So we're not saving the earth. We're not doing it for this altruistic reason. We're doing it for ourselves, and we need to think about it that way. So I thought about a lot of different things watching the first episode. I enjoyed seeing her set the shed on fire. I thought that was fitting. He was not a good person. And that whole party was, I don't know, it seemed superfluous, just showing the excesses and the pretentiousness of actors and how it differed from her and I can't remember his name.
Arthur.
Art, thank you. How they bonded. So it was nice to see that because we saw that he called her and had that conversation. To just see it from the other side was good. Mm-hmm. I am finding this series on the whole to be very esoteric. And so I'm having to really invest my time in it and absorb everything I can, especially the stuff in the future. But this episode in particular, I thought was, while it was like grounded in things that we could identify with, it was also esoteric in the fact that she has this weird philosophy of things. She saw the spaceman as she's left there to die, I guess, in Malaysia. So, and they're talking about the book throughout this whole thing, and that it signifies this, all very, like I said, pretentious and esoteric and all that. I don't like that Arthur shows the artwork to his mistress.
Yeah.
I thought that would have gutted me. Okay, and then the second episode.
Well, since you really went in depth, I'm going to let Lou talk about the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. Made a lot of great points there, Karen. I especially think the George Carlin reference was a very good insight into what this series is going to be all about to you when you get to the end of it. Surprisingly, this portion of the series covers the book pretty closely, except for the annoying business counterpart. That wasn't in the book at all, as far as I remember, or I think I would remember, because that is pretty annoying. It's interesting, though, that, like you said, with the COVID stuff, the reactions to people during, especially like the early days, some people totally panic and other people are oblivious and other people go into PTSD or shock. Like guy goes golfing. Like he says, that's what I thought I would do. And I think that is a microcosm of how the real world acts. I mean, they even still held that business meeting. Things were obviously not going well. So people are just trying to carry on routines because that's the only way they know how to deal with something this immense. And I think you laid out all the big plot points from this episode pretty well. It's the Station 11 graphic novel is important, hence the name of the series. So I don't think that's a big reveal, but the impact that it has on people, and we see that more in the next episode, is quite profound. And I think it's a testament to the fact that you can give somebody the same thing and create different realities, which amazingly is happening today. And so in that way, I think that's just a byproduct of the story. I don't think that was a main intent, but it's interesting because this character, Miranda, who the actress, I'm not familiar with her, Danielle Deadweiler, she played the role quite well. I thought she was the most likable character in the episode. And I had the same problem with the book. I think Arthur is just a hedonist. He's just whatever has his attention at the moment and gives him the most pleasure is what he's going to do. He doesn't really care about people's feelings, but he's got this smarmy charm about him that obviously is because he's an actor, he uses to advance himself either personally or professionally. So, and the life that he's living it's a big illusion, and is initially attracted to his spontaneity, I guess you could say. Like in the restaurant, he keeps telling her, come on, come on, come on. And she's feeling very closed down. So she takes the sleep and then she gets sucked into his life. But she's got this secret thing inside of her that's causing her to spend a lot of time alone and working on this graphic novel. So I was pretty impressed with how closely this followed the book. And it's really hard to discuss the series in episodic segments because it's so interleaving. And once we get to the final episode, we can really, really talk about that. And I think those last two episodes will make for a really good discussion.
Yeah, just so to reset, I have seen the whole series, not read the book. Lou has read the book, not seen the whole series. And Karen has not read the book nor seen the whole series.
Correct.
I liked this episode a lot, but did not understand its place. It just, all of a sudden, we've spent 2 episodes learning all these other characters, and now it feels like brand new characters because we didn't spend a lot of time with Arthur. Arthur in the first episode dies. So, and I don't understand what's going on. I did think it was interesting, and I did not pick this up myself, but on the behind the scenes HBO episode, that when she's pitching, everyone in that room is in logistics. And so they understand supply chains and how everything is connected. So all of them understand how they are shafted because of this, which I did not picture. I think about, you mentioned Karen being a denier. I will tell you, one of my most embarrassing moments was I had started a new job in February of 2020. And toward the end of February, first part of March, I don't remember exactly, one of my employees came to me and said, Jesse, what are we going to do about this illness that's going through? What, have we had a plan yet? I'm really worried. And I said, oh, it's fine. It's kind of like when they talk about, oh, we're going to have Snormageddon 2000 and it ends up being bad, but it's going to be okay. We'll be fine. And then little did I know, just in a couple of weeks, and it happened very quickly. My boss said, hey, we need to be thinking about what are we going to do if we have to send everyone home. And then like 3 days later, okay, it's no longer a exercise, it's a reality. How are we going to send everyone home? So I did think, I saw myself in her partner, right? Like, there's yes, this will be bad, but things are going to settle down a little bit. And so I might as well go enjoy. I brought my clubs all this way. We might go. And then when they realize what's happening, and I think it was a great moment when she had a chance to get out of there, but because of finding out about his death, which then I go, oh, there's a connection, right? Like that we saw in the first episode, he died. Now then he's calling them, though I don't know where she would have gone anyway. There was no safe place to go. She just was going to have wherever, whether it's in Malaysia or whatever. So I did not see the connections during the first. I enjoyed this as a kind of little standalone episode. I think of Hurricane, the Dylan song, versus Hamilton, though I probably just as much Hamilton is an actual better choice, though Dylan's Hurricane is a good song.
It's just more in my head, that's all.
Yeah, exactly. And the idea, I do want to go back to Caitlin Fitzgerald, who plays Elizabeth, when she says, I told him that I'm sleeping with you, not sleeping with Arthur. And she's like, what? Well, the rumor. Don't everyone know? Haven't you heard the rumor? I was like, oh, come on. You're so sleeping with her husband.
Right. You knew it right then.
Yeah.
I would never do that.
Yeah. And then I did not understand that he was, till afterwards, when she stands up with the wine, Miranda quotes an early film of his and then throws the wine on the ground. I was like, she's really angry. And I go, okay, she's either figured out that they're sleeping together, and she's also betrayed about, I don't want to show anyone my work. I don't want to share. And I know a lot of writers are that way. They're very shy about, this is not a finished product. I don't want you to judge this as a work in progress. So anything else about that? Anything else about this episode or any of those interactions you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of stuff telegraphed from the beginning of the episode to the end. They talk about the fact that her father was a fishing boat captain or something, and that she spent a lot of time on the water and she hated it. And so when she's told that she's going to be on this boat for a couple of years, I think that's part of the reason it's easy for her to say, I don't want to go. Also, how protective she was of her art when she meets him in that diner. And you can tell already it's just a picture of a banana. So why would she not feel that way even more intensified with this great work that she's working on? And also how they belittle her about, well, if you're not going to get it published, why even work on it at all? And for the artist, their art is the product. It's not themselves. They're not selling anything. That's them wanting to do what their heart is urging them to do. And I feel like that's the main difference between her and Arthur, is that Arthur is selling himself and she is not. Her product is logistics. that's how she makes her living. She doesn't care if she ever sees a dime from her artwork. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I like that dichotomy between the two of them. And also I feel like they planted little things through the episode that you understood at the end of the episode. That's why it worked out the way it did.
And I think that could be said for the whole series.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't think that's spoilerish, because I've said, I was like in episode 6 or 7 and said, why am I still watching this? And a couple of people on Twitter said, stick with it. And then by the end, I went, oh, I liked it enough for us to talk about it. So yeah. Lou?
Yeah, I think Karen's point about her whole reason for doing art is to fulfill something that's missing in her life. Whereas for Arthur, it's just something that he uses to promote himself or feed his hedonistic tendency. So art means different things to different people. And one of the esoteric messages that's in this episode.
Yeah, and especially if you draw a parallel to the future story where art is what is saving humanity. Mm-hmm. That they're actually a huge part of bringing back people to themselves instead of living in all this trauma. And just one more little thing, that dude, Mr. Golfing logistics dude, at the end when she relinquishes the pitch to him and he starts that whole like, oh, we live as a big society and what would they think if they would think about logistics. And I'm like, okay, I've known people like that through my careers. So I thought that was an interesting view into what that dude is all about.
Mm-hmm. At the end, when she saw the spacesuit guy, who do you think that was? Was she really seeing that?
It's the dude from her artwork. So I think, just coming from what I know so far, it's either something because she got sick, or it's just she's taking comfort in her artwork, in her work. I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming he's not real.
Mm-hmm. Did it ever enter your mind that maybe it was the big business guy because it was so tall?
God, no? I hope not. Because I can't stand that guy. But I know it's from her book, so it predates this dude, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Unless the dude comes to her door and she's just hallucinating her work in place of him standing there. I don't know.
Yeah. I viewed it as she's hallucinating or dreaming is how I took it. I do think one of the important things that you've talked about is this establishes there's more than one copy of this graphic novel. And Kristen is convinced she has the only copy.
Right.
Therefore, if anyone else quotes it or anyone does this, then this is just something unheard of.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that a lot of the panels from the comic they're quoted on the various vehicles within the traveling symphony as well. Like survival is insufficient is one of them for sure. So that's something to take note of as well.
So without spoilery, do you get more of what the story would have been in the book?
Without knowing what's in the next episodes, I would have to say, there's probably more in the novel about the graphic novel than there is in the series, but I'm just guessing at this point.
Yeah, I would be interested in reading the actual graphic novel because it doesn't exist, but it's one of those I think I would like to, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Arthur says, I don't want to live the wrong life and then die. And so
that essentially sums up his life.
Yes, that does sum up his life.
A lot of people's lives.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Anything else before we move on to the next episode?
Sorry for splitting everything up.
No. I actually think you were right.
Okay.
I
because they're so different. Yeah,
they are very different. So I think your instincts, as always, podcast mom,
stop it,
are great. All right. So we get to
Rosencrantz.
Yes, we are back to modern day, or at least the future, however you want to do this. But this is the main timeline of the episode. We're with the Traveling Symphony, and they talk about the wheel. They show the wheel, and they go, they normally back in the day, they would split off, and musicians would go to one place, actors would go to another. And because of this, as often in art and in groups, the bad relationships, relationship drama break them up. And so they no longer go to this golf course because the guy who used to be the co-leader ended up falling in love with someone else. And the conductor hates him. They broke up. And Kristen manipulates her by saying, you know, I heard that What's-Her-Face died. Really? All right, we're splitting up so she can go see. So, Karen, let's talk about going to the golf course. Let's.
Hello, country club.
Yeah, the country club, yes.
Country club, yeah.
And I just want to give a shout out. Gil is played by the brilliant David Cross.
I knew you were going to say that.
I love David Cross. What, do you not like David Cross?
Oh, yes, but I knew Karen's just going to jump right on that.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I love knowing, you know, the history behind the actors that play the role.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is really great in this role because Gil strikes me as someone that is torn, very torn. And also he uses humor and his intellectualism to cover the fact that he likes Katrina. He's in love with Katrina. They have a history. They're both the same on an intellectual level. But I think he also loved Sarah, and he loved that artistic brilliance in her. And so he was torn, and he decided, I'm just going to go and live here. I'm going to be static. I'm going to go off wheel. And that's the path for me. And you could tell that he still loves Sarah. While he has this life with Katrina, he still loves Sarah. He is welcoming with open arms to them coming back. And I feel like at the end, you know, he's writing a letter to Katrina saying, my darling Katrina. Was that him saying he was going to go back on the road?
I think so.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed his performance in this. It was nuanced. He has become, you know, he started out with Bob and Dave, that little comedy show with Bob Odenkirk. And I think he's really come a long way in his career. Every time I see him in something, I'm like, okay, this is going to be good. Either it's going to be absurd, or he called in just recently, he called into CNN or something as someone from like Trump's camp and all that. And he just said a lot of really absurd things. And it might have been Newsmax. And they believed every word that he said. And so I just love the chances that he takes. He looks great with a beard too. So there's that. I also love that Kirsten manipulates Sarah. She wants to go get her book. She also wants to go off the wheel and see Gilligan. I think that was not Gilligan, Gil again. I feel like she has a fondness for him. She also wants to solidify things with Alex. She wants to make sure that Alex understands what they do and maybe, you know, talk to Gil and see how important everything is. I think a lot of her motivation right now is helping Alex because of this doubt that was sown that she wanted to leave. It's like, you know, the Pied Piper is taking all the children away. So I enjoyed on the whole all that part. I really liked that we got to see another version of Hamlet. I think it is making fun of the fact that we like to remake stuff all the time, that there's not anything new under the sun. So they were talking about camcorders. I can't relate to this camcorder thing. Okay, but Alex can't relate to the phone either. So maybe you're getting a little taste of that. They had that conversation in the second episode, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So there was that whole thing. I thought that Kirsten definitely hated the fact that she wasn't the lead this time around, but she does whatever is best for the traveling symphony. I think it was interesting to see that these children are taken and indoctrinated, which again is something that happens in real life. Not so much coming back with minds, but there's all that. We got also Brian stops by again to try and get them to the Museum of Civilization. And I mean, they're really pushing hard. So I'm guessing there's some big agenda there. And we got something else in that episode too. He's writing, first of all, Gil's writing a book, and it's supposed to be the history of the world. Is he trying to like hold on to the before people or whatever? I find that interesting. I'd like to see if we see Gil again, because I like David Cross, but I have a feeling we're not going to see him anymore. I mean, he's dead, right? I mean, those kids killed him.
I would say so.
Okay.
Being between two minds like that?
Yeah. I would assume so. And is Kirsten hurt? I want to know. Oh, yeah, there was the stuff in the past with Jeevan and her in the cabin in the woods. Mm-hmm. One of the things I like about the philosophy in these episodes is when they say something and I get it immediately and Jeevan didn't. I mean, I feel smart. To the monsters, we're the monsters. And it's like he doesn't understand that. But I feel like I get that on such a base level that, you know, I don't like to hurt anything, ever. And I have this deep love of animals, not just cats. You guys tease me about me loving my cat, but I love dogs. Yeah. I love fish. I love rabbits. You know, I love every living thing. Sure. And I have that feeling that to the monsters, and again, on the whole, I'm talking about like animals and stuff like that, we're the monsters because they don't understand our motivations behind anything. And it would be like if we went to outer space and someone just stepped on us like a bug. They're the monsters to us, but to them, we're inconsequential. Who knows? A bug doesn't have a thinking mind, I'm guessing. But what goes through their mind that they're going to die in the next 5 seconds because I pushed my finger down on them? So yeah, I know I'm getting off topic, but I really loved that whole analogy. And again, I'm hoping that it comes up somewhere else because I feel like that's a really important statement. I have to say I'm sad that we're seeing a different side of Jeevan, that he doesn't seem sympathetic at all to her, where I feel like they should be bonded through this experience. And really, he's just, I don't want to have to take care of you feeling. And I wasn't in love with that. And also, hearing The Conscience of the King played on the television, the Star Trek episode, mm-hmm. That episode, I mean, if you look at that episode, it has a lot to do with the plot line where, you know, there's themes that match each other. Mm-hmm. So very interesting episode.
Yeah, obviously that was deliberate for a lot of reasons, which is very clever of the writer to include something that I did love. The idea that no, you just have your phone. Why do you need a camcorder? Right. Mm-hmm. Because how much technology's changed. Kevin Smith has talked about that often, that he had to sell all his comics and max out his computer, his credit cards to make Clerks, his first movie. He said, now then I could have done it with just my phone. Mm-hmm. And just how much technology has changed.
Yeah. And people do make movies with just their phone.
Yes, they do. So, Lou, let's try to dodge the landmines on the golf course. And what are your thoughts on this episode?
I think I'd like you to go first, Jesse.
Okay. So I had whiplash.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm like, okay, we've gone to this. We've gone back to, we flash back. We see the early days of the flu, and we see this, and now then we're back, and I don't understand why we're having to go back. Why is it so important for her to get this book again? Is she worried that someone has stolen it? That's why someone says get it. I did like her manipulating so that she could get there. It was very funny, the scenes about we re-put the mines on the course, which is like very much an isolationist, right? We're not going to leave. That doesn't make any sense. And then it got very confusing. The children being stolen, everyone's confused what that's about. The children coming back with mines. I was very confused on this. What's going on? What is their purpose? Why do they want to steal the children? Why are they bringing the children back? I don't understand what's going on. So the non-important stuff I enjoyed. I enjoyed the drama of, what do you mean I don't get to be Hamlet? Oh, you're just jealous that I get a chance to be lead, which is very Kristen is almost only child syndrome, right? Like I'm used to being the star. I'm used to being the only child. And all of a sudden there's a very different dynamics. Chris talks about that sometimes as being an only child. He says, I know sometimes I can be difficult because I'm used to being an only child. So I didn't love this episode, even on a second watch. There were some nice moments in there, but it felt jumbled and didn't fit all together. Some good performances, some good information, but this was not one of my favorite episodes. So Lou, how about you?
Oh, interesting. This episode deviates wildly from the book.
Okay.
So the whole thing about the prophet and the children is done in a much different manner. And I understand what they're doing in this episode. So it's doing several things, and maybe it'll come into more focus as the series progresses. I'm a little hesitant to say what I'm going to say, but I don't think it's spoilery, but I can't help but say this without knowing that I have insight of where the story's going. So what this episode really brings into focus for me is that, we've talked about this in our previous podcast, is that all the survivors are basically walking around with PTSD. They're all trying to hang on to what their life was before, and they're trying to determine what their purpose in life is now, and they're fluctuating back and forth between the two. And we see that a lot with Kirsten when she has those like flashbacks to moments post-pandemic, that she's based her whole life around this graphic novel, and it's the bedrock of her character. When Alexandria, which is the black-haired girl who takes the lead in this episode for the play, she's post-pandemic, so she's never been in the world that we know. So she's totally different outlook in life and that, and she's very carefree. She's just living, like she's just totally in this world. She's got no problems with what's going on. And when she starts saying to Kirsten phrases from the Station 11 book that the prophet used that are the same ones that Kirsten's using, Kirsten's having a major crisis of faith here, because she can't understand how that prophet would know these words, because as far as she knows, she's got the only copy. So that's one of the reasons why she wants to go to the golf club, to see if somehow that magazine has been stolen, but it's still there. So for her, now that's going to raise a whole other bunch of questions, which I assume we're going to see in the next few episodes. That's one thread that I thought was really quite well done. The other scene that I really loved was the minefield, because all the people that are stuck in that minefield are all people that lived before the pandemic. Alexander's there for a second, but then when she hears about the children, she just runs right across that field without a care in the world, oblivious to the danger. And that shows more of she's not afraid to do things. So it's the symbology of that minefield I thought was really quite well done in this episode. I liked that quite a bit. I mean, I was just like, oh, she's going to die, but it didn't. So I thought that was really well done. And the relationship between Kirsten and Alexandria in this episode, because of the fact that Alexandria keeps throwing back in her face things that Kirsten believes in that the prophet used. And I don't know if either of you didn't raise this point, but at the end of the episode, in the flashback scenes with the young Kirsten, at the end of the episode, her and Javine are separated. Mm-hmm. So that fear is driving Kirsten as well. Like she's been abandoned, and she doesn't want to abandon anybody. That's why in the previous episode, she was upset about the pregnant woman leaving the company as well. So there's all this going on. I do agree that the children being put with the mines around them is weird, because the graphic novel and even the prophet says that the children are the future. So I really didn't understand that aspect of the episode either. So that hopefully that will get clarified going down the road.
Well, they did mention, like I said, that he's writing this book of history. And I thought maybe two kids sacrificed, knowing that those kids could get under the radar there and take him out so that history wouldn't be written, was kind of one of my thoughts.
That's a possibility. That's a good one. So So yeah, I really like this episode, and I like the rewriting of Macbeth. And I wasn't sure if at the end of that play, I'm leaning towards it that Kirsten was actually really pissed off, and they just improvised that ending. So I actually thought that was pretty good, and I liked the costume she had with all the gloves.
Yeah, me too. That was awesome.
That was pretty cool. And a subtle hint was dropped again when Enrico showed up.
Yeah.
Like Karen likes David Cross. I love Enrico because I was a big Veronica Mars fan. So when he shows up with that CD, he says, we love listening to it. And she sort of says, oh, how could you do that? And then the conversation just keeps going. So that was a little hook that I think should be noted for future episodes. So while it deviated wildly from the book, I can understand why they did it, because in the book, this whole thing with the children banned a lot longer in the novel. So you weren't really sure what the purpose was. Here it's been compressed down, though the original purpose in the book of the keeping the children because they're the future versus the other people who are stuck in the past doesn't come across as clear in this episode because of the mine bombing thing. So that is a bit strange, but I was actually impressed with how they were able to compress some of the larger portions of this novel into this one episode. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. I really loved the minefield sequence. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was actually brilliant. And overall, I just like the vibe of the episode. Like when Kirsten asked Gil, he says, so is retirement what you thought it would be?
Yeah.
Like they're still living in the past. So I just love that scene. I thought that was really well done. And so I guess because of the knowledge of the book and that, I really like this episode quite a bit.
I have to say, Enrico was also in Galaxy Quest. And the way he talks in this reminds me of his character in Galaxy Quest. It's very stilted, but I like his character. I'm assuming he's going to be a bad guy just from, it seems like they're telegraphing that. So, but I don't know. So don't say anything.
Yeah, I do think that's what they're trying to telegraph. And he almost plays this at, I don't know if he is very simple or just matter of fact, like, okay, well, I'll try again. I do feel like he played it really well when they took his CD. Like, what are you doing? And
is he playing it that he's very severely suffering from post-stress syndrome?
And I do think that's well said. I do agree with you, Lou, that this was a real fight when they were on stage. And that they ended up using it. And Alex is like, that was great. And I don't know if Krista was even trying to act. It was just letting it.
And again, that shows a difference between the two of them, right? Because Alex just goes with it. She wasn't upset that she changed the script. She was fine with that.
Was rolling.
So,
I feel like, and I feel like they're giving us this. They learned that new script in a day.
Yes.
So I am assuming that a lot of this is improvisation based on the fact that they know the play so well. They don't say every single line the way it's written. I'm assuming they do with Hamlet because that's Shakespeare. And to them, it's like their Bible, I guess, that's their whole thing.
Yeah.
But with this new one, she could slip that in there. She could slip it in and have it go completely unknown that she was deviating from the script because, and it was her way kind of, I think, to expel these hard feelings she had over the whole thing. And again, I did love that gloves. And it shows, they took on this new script that day. So they had to make costumes out of what they found there. And so it's golfing gloves. And it's just awesome. I loved it. And her little bustier that was underneath it, her corset. Oh, her whole outfit. I would wear that in a heartbeat. Ribbons going down her back.
Yeah, the whole aesthetics of this episode, all the costuming and everything, and just like the party when they're after the play, and the country club, which looked like the Stanley Hotel from The Shining, but Gil's office with all the knickknacks and whatnot in that. I thought, the crew and the set director and the costumers, they just did a fantastic job in this episode. I just thought everything was so striking. And Alexandra, even with like the spray painted black stripe across her face, like the Blade Runner vibe, with her hair all gelled up and that. I aesthetically, I thought the episode was really done quite well.
Yeah, and I am not familiar enough with Shakespeare. That's one of those lacking in my, I know I should know more about it and should spend more time watching it and enjoying. But so I did not get the creative choice of why you wanted to have Mad Max makeup on or something. But I did think that was interesting. You brought up a really good point that I had forgotten about, Lou, is we do get the end. Our main couple, Javan and Kristen, they're tired of each other. And he's mad about something about having to do the play. He's a lot of his frustration. And this is a father-daughter dynamic. And often you get mad about something that isn't about the thing you're mad at. Like he's mad at that trade paperback, at that graphic novel, and
I think he's really jealous of it.
Yeah, he's just and so he hurts her. He tries to. She ends up, he'd taken it away. He'd be there, and then he does abandon her, and you don't know why, and that seems uncharacteristic of him. So that's very confusing. I remember when I watched this the first time, I was going what? This doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think one of the things I take from it is that they do have that dynamic, but he is not related to her. Right. He can walk away anytime he wants to. And I feel like that's just the last straw for him. That's what I'm taking from it. He is like, why did I even do this? I was just supposed to walk you home. He's regretting every choice he made with her. And then also one of the things I wanted to ask about is Alex takes that horse and runs off at the end across the minefield. And I was like, okay, what's going to happen with that? And then all of a sudden Gil gets blown up instead. Yeah. And that was one of those misdirect things to me. So.
Yeah. So 4 episodes into it, what are you feeling, Karen?
I like it. These last 2 episodes jarred me a little bit, but to me, that's okay, because if it makes me think, then I'm glad. If it intrigues me, if I wonder why this is in here, if it doesn't pay off in the end, then I'm mad. Okay. But right now, I'm thinking, well, this has to have a payoff. Okay. And to me, that makes me like something. Does that make sense?
Sure, it does. And I think you can take a little bit, not spoiler, where I said we wanted to watch this, though, of course, with Devs, you ended up not you recommended it even though we didn't like the ending.
Right.
So, so we keep it guessing.
Yeah, that made me sad when Lou said, I hope it doesn't end like this. And then it ended like that. Yes. But I think the journey. But
I still like I think the series is worth watching.
I think the journey was worth it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
But I'm guessing, this is a different thing. I'm not guessing at the ending. I'm guessing at this will come up later in the series. Something with the book, something with Miranda's. So I like that it's drawing me in and it's making me think about what could be happening next. So
well, and as a side note, by watching Devs, I felt like it was a really good appetizer for Severance.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, all right, Lou, how about you? Now that we've gone through 4 episodes, you know the book. What are you enjoying? It seems like you think they're doing a very good job of changing it from the book to the screen.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed so far with what they've done. And it was interesting because me and Karen were talking on the break before you came back, because she said she was watching The Peripheral, and that's got a kind of complicated story too, but not in the same manner. But it's a series that is still ongoing. But I said to her, I thought the first episode was good, but then I struggled with the second and third. But then on the fourth and the fifth, it really hit its stride. So now I'm really hooked. And I think for a first-time viewer, probably the same thing will happen here, because looking at the next episode title, Port Severn, I think a lot of things are going to come to the front that will really ratchet up everybody's interest. And Jesse, you probably could confirm that or not if you wanted to. I don't know if you want to.
Yes, I think it does. Once again, this is one of my complaints about the series when I was watching it the first time, is it didn't feel connected. It just felt random stories and I didn't understand. And then at the end I went, oh, they were weaving this without meaning to.
Yeah. Karen's tapestry.
Yep.
Exactly. Yes.
I like tapestries.
So I'm quite enjoying it. It's interesting, and I'm still shocked that this series got made. I just assumed it's just because of the streaming environment that we live in, because this is such a esoteric show that it just wouldn't get on prime TV. Like there's just no way.
Yeah.
And even as a movie, there's just too much story. So this is the only way that it could have been made. And
but look at how awesome. I mean, there are some things I miss about regular television before streaming, but I feel like we have an opportunity to see so many more different things.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Streaming. I mean, like you said, this would never be a miniseries. They would never have made this.
Or devs.
Devs or anything like that. I just feel like, I mean, and The Peripheral, and even like stuff
Severance.
like Upload, Severance, they're just too slow. No one would be into it. I mean, The Sandman would never be made, that's for sure.
Yeah, and
so I love it.
Yeah, we're all old enough to remember back in the day when they first started doing TV miniseries.
Yep.
And where, Roots. Whether it was, Roots or,
Centennial,
Rich
North
Man,
and South.
Poor Man, all these things.
Yeah.
And it was event TV.
Yep.
It was really exciting that you got to see this novel for television. And so now then I think there's a lot to complain about, but there is a lot of there is a beauty of this. So 2 more episodes we'll discuss next episode. I'm looking forward to it. If someone wants to reach you, Lou, how can they?
They can find me on YouTube at Lou's Reviews, where you will find these Station 11 episodes under the JKLM Media playlist, as well as our Babylon 5 episode reviews, and do writer interviews and Stephen King podcasts with Karen and sometimes Jesse. And and on Twitter, you can find me at Lou W. Sitzmo or at S King Podcast.
All right. And Karen?
I am at Eleveria on the Twitter machine and a lot of other places. There's a link in my bio to my blog, at which you can find a bunch of other links, including like podcasts I recommend, not just me, but some other stuff that I'm interested in. Our good friend Charles Skaggs' blog is linked on there, and all kinds of other stuff. So,
all right. Well, I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. You can hear me talk Bruce Springsteen on Set Listing Bruce. You can hear me talk John Hyatt on Perfectly Good Podcast. And I am having a blast going through these series with you two, and we're having a lot of fun on our Babylon 5 rewatch. So thank you, Lou. Thank you, Karen. I guess the curtain is closed.
There you go.
All right.
The fourth wall has arisen.
Yes. Talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
And scene.
The proceeding has been a JKL Media production.